I'm going to call the October 19, 2022 Williamsburg Planning Commission meeting to order. Heather, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hamilton.
Here.
Mr. Kale.
Here.
Mr. Tarley. Mr. Boswell.
Here.
Mr. Granger.
Here.
Mr. Sokolowski.
Here.
Ms. Liebel.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Our first agenda item is the approval of the minutes from September 14, 2022. There was at least one change I know from the minutes that were submitted, the draft minutes that were submitted on Friday. Do any commissioners have other amendments or changes or updates to the proposed minutes? If not, could we have a motion to approve the September 14, 2022 draft minutes as submitted?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton.
Aye.
Mr. Kale.
Aye.
Mr. Boswell.
Aye.
Mr. Granger.
Aye.
Mr. Sokolowski.
Abstain.
Ms. Liebel.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We have two public hearings today on the agenda, but they both involve the same parcel, and so the plan is for Planning Director Griffin to make one presentation, sort of combining the two, and then we'll have one open forum, one discussion. If any commissioner would like to have separate votes on the two applications, we can do it that way. Otherwise, my plan is to just have a single vote combining the two. Ms. Griffin, the floor is yours. Yep.
So good afternoon. There we go. Good afternoon.
Now we can.
Yes, exactly. Good afternoon, Chairman Boswell and all members of the Planning Commission. Today, this public hearing is PCR 22017. Is a text amendment. Steve Moore from Uptown Alley is requesting an amendment to add a family entertainment center to the B2 zoning district. And currently, this is not an approved use in the B2 district, and the definition of a family entertainment center is an establishment providing commercial indoor recreational services, including but not limited to arcades, billiard parlors, bowling alleys, pool halls, virtual reality experiences, and mini golf. And a restaurant can be a supplementary function of the center. All activities take place within the building. Anytime that someone is requesting a text amendment, we want to take a look at all the areas that are in that particular zoning district. This is the B2 zoning district, and this property here is shown around the 2nd Street corridor, and also Central Parkway, Colonial Parkway, and the Penniman Street area. The area that is colored red here, or orange, is considered B2. B2 is also along Richmond Road, starting at New Hope Road, and it goes all the way up to the city line. Again, this is the dark red area. So what the Planning Commission should consider is if this particular use is added to the B2 district, it can be allowed by special use permit in any of those parcels that are zoned B2 that I just showed you. What staff has did an analysis of the current uses that are allowed in the B2 district. Right now, a restaurant is allowed by right, and the areas or the uses on your right-hand side, the outdoor miniature golf, a warehouse, a museum and art galleries with sales or any type of display on the outside of the building, wholesale businesses and microbreweries are allowed by special use permit. Also in this district, any building that has a square footage of over 50,000 square feet must have a special use permit. Based on this, staff sees that a family recreation center is in keeping with the current zoning district. One, because a restaurant is allowed, and family centers would have a restaurant inside, and it will also have entertainment-like activities like the miniature golf, the museum, and the art galleries. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, and also the applicant, Mr. Moore, is here to answer any of your questions.
So, Ms. Griffin, you mentioned 22-017. Did that cover 22-018 as well?
This is 22017. Do you want me to do the whole presentation before I take questions?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the next one is 22018. And the purpose of this special use permit is the same applicant is requesting this without the approval of the addition to the text amendment and adding a family recreation center to the B2 district. A special use permit would not be allowed. This is 2200 Richmond Road. It is the former Yankee Candle building. The applicant is requesting a reuse of 65,000 square feet to accommodate the Family Entertainment Center. Whenever a special use permit comes before the Planning Commission and City Council, the zoning ordinance requires 6 particular questions to be answered. And I'm going to go through each of those questions and give you the staff's recommendation. The first criteria is that the special use permit must be in harmony with the adopted comprehensive plan. The second is that the special use permit must have the intent and purpose and meet the intent and purpose of the underlying zoning district, which is the B2. And then the special use permit must be within the character of adjacent properties and the surrounding neighborhoods and within the existing and proposed development. So first, let's look at the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan designates this area as corridor commercial. Within corridor commercial, it speaks about the businesses having a tourist attraction. It also talks about special use permits being required for buildings that are larger than 50,000 square feet. The zoning district. If the text amendment is not approved, then the special use permit would not meet the zoning district requirements because, as I said before, a family recreation center is not an allowable use currently in the B2 zoning district. And next is character, whether this particular special use permit, Uptown Alley, is keeping in the character of what is surrounding. And so we have on each side a restaurant. On one side you have the Carrabba's Italian Grill. On the other side you have Olive Garden. And then across the street, a portion of that is York County. You have a car wash, and you also have another restaurant. And on the back end of this building is Skipwith Farms, which is a residential community. All of the activity will take place within the building. Additionally, there will be no major changes made to the rear of the property. All the changes in the facade will be made to the front, and so from staff's opinion, this would not adversely affect Skipwith Farms. Also, there will be a restaurant inside of the Family Recreation Center, Uptown Alley. You will be able, if you would like, to utilize a restaurant, even if you're not taking part in any of the other activities such as bowling. So this is a restaurant with additional activities. The fourth criteria is that the special use permit and the use must adequately be served by essential public services such as streets, drainage facilities, and fire protection, as well as public water and sewer facilities. And we do know that this is a reuse of the building, so of course number 4 is already being met. Number 5, the proposed use shall not result in the destruction, loss, or damage to significant ecological, or historic, or scenic elements of importance. And again, this building is already here. There will be some facade changes, but staff does not feel that it will adversely affect any of those particular elements. And then number 6, if the use is in harmony with the character of adjacent properties and the surrounding neighborhoods, and it looks like this may be the same one, so let me read off the number 6. Number 6 should be, the proposed use shall be designed, sited, and landscaped so that the use will not hinder or discourage the appropriate development or use of adjacent properties and surrounding neighborhoods. This particular design is before the Architectural Review Board. The applicant and his architect attended that meeting back in September. They went before the Architectural Review Board for conceptual review. They will have to go back before the Architectural Review Board. The board did give them some suggestions, and I did include those minutes in your packet. And staff is recommending that prior to going to City Council, if the Planning Commission decides to recommend approval, that they not go before City Council without approval from the Architectural Review Board. This is a conceptual rendering of what will take place inside of the use. Here you have seating, you have bowling lanes, you have duck pens, a game room, arcade, a kitchen, and it's also showing the seating in the restaurant. And again, the applicant is here. If you have more questions specifically about this, they would be able to answer this for you. This is showing another level of the use, and here you have mini golf, you have carts, golf go-karts that could be inside of this space. I don't believe they have come up with the design for the second floor of what they're actually going to put here, but the mini golf and the go-kart is an example of what could go here. And again, you have more restaurant and bar space. This is a rendering that was provided to the Architectural Review Board. Again, they did suggest several things, and Ms. Liebel could maybe speak to that, but I think the notes that I provided you and the minutes provided you give a good recap of what they suggested to them. Staff does recommend approval of the Family Entertainment Center for a special use permit to operate at 2200 Richmond Road, located in the B2 zoning district, because staff believes the use meets the 6 criteria outlined in section 24-42 of the zoning ordinance. Now, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank you also for the upgraded graphics and animations in the presentation. That's very helpful. Do any of us have questions for Ms. Griffin?
I do have a question about traffic control at that particular place along Richmond Road. I don't really know what the traffic control was like when Yankee Candle was there, and it's too late to observe what's happening. But will this use require, or would it be beneficial to have a stoplight there? Because I'm concerned about the amount of traffic at peak times, particularly after dark, that you might see coming out of this particular facility. Even if they're turning right, there could be some hazard, and certainly turning left, there could be some hazard to people. And I looked at where traffic lights are along Richmond Road, and there is nothing between the Outlet Mall and the Ironbound Kentucky Fried Chicken, or whatever it is, stoplight. So I just am wondering if staff has looked at the possibility of putting a stoplight there.
At this time, staff has not looked at that possibility. What we know now is that the applicant is not changing any interior circulation of the parking spaces. I think it would be determined also on the occupancy of the building. And I'm pretty sure that when we get building plans in, we'll see that the assembly will change to occupancy that's allowed versus what was allowed in the Yankee Candle store. So that could be something that we would have to look at, and I would make a note to do that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Griffin? Okay, we'll have an open forum, which is an opportunity for folks to address the commission. We usually start with the applicant. I'm not sure which group of you is the applicant on this particular, these two applications. Just come up and introduce yourself and for the clerk, and give us a little quick overview, if you would.
Yeah, my name is Stephen Moore. I'm one of the co-founders of Uptown Alley. Obviously, Williamsburg is a market we'd love to enter. Very excited about the use. And I think we'd be a good fit. As far as Questions, I really don't know. I think as far as, you guys have any questions about the type of use we have, or just anything in general, or our occupancy numbers? I don't know what the Yankee Candle occupancy is, but for 60,000 square foot Uptown Alley in Richmond, it's 1,500 people would be our occupancy that we were given by the fire department.
Okay.
And so on. But yeah, it's a lot of great uses that we want to put for your community. It's all geared towards family entertainment, and also socially active adults at nighttime to have a good activity to do, from bowling to indoor putt-putt that we want to try to bring into this market, virtual reality, very large arcade, bigger than I think anything you guys have ever seen, very similar to what Dave & Buster's offers as well too. So I think it's an exciting entertainment option that we can bring to your community for all the tourists that do visit Williamsburg.
Great, thank you.
So, yeah.
Questions for the applicant? No questions? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the commission on either or both of these applications? Seeing nobody, I will close.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, please come up. Didn't mean to overlook you back there in the crowd. I lost you in the crowd. I apologize. If you would state your name and address for the clerk for us.
My name's Todd
Thanks.
Kraus, and so forgive me, this is my first time here. I live in 217 Captain Newport Circle, and that's in the cul-de-sac that's exactly behind the property you're talking about. And if you look on the map, my property is the triangle that abuts the retaining wall behind this. So I'm a little worried about the noise level and just traffic. I understand that you'll have activities confined within the building, fine, but these activities tend to engage a level of emotion and excitement that is different from the level of emotion and excitement you got at Yankee Candle, buying your candles and other awesome gifts, right? So I'm a little worried about the impact that this is going to have for me and my neighbors in the cul-de-sac. Plus, I understand when I signed up to live there that I was behind Yankee Candle. I did not realize that I was potentially signing up to be behind the pits of go-karts. Don't get me wrong, I love the go-karts, but I don't love living behind the pits. And I've lived, for example, in Austin before, and the area around Dave & Buster's, I love Dave & Buster's, but the area around Dave & Buster's went downhill real quick in terms of residences. And so I'm a little worried that the same could be happening here. I don't know, is there any plan to alleviate that or address any of these concerns?
We're gonna. My next step is to ask the applicant to come back up and address that. And we know there are other facilities just like this. So there's a track record that he can speak to. So I'm going to ask him to do that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, sir. Would you mind just addressing if you know, as the applicant? Yeah, if you just don't mind doing that.
And all of our activities will be contained within the four walls. I'm not looking to do go-karts at this location, and if we were to do it, it would be an electric go-karts if we did go that route, just because it's indoors with fumes and so on, which those do not make noise. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to address the commission? Looking very carefully, not to overlook anyone. Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing anyone, so I will close the open forum and ask the commissioners for discussion, comments. Legal?
I would like to ask an additional question about the residents' concern about noise. Since you've got existing facilities, is it feasible to conduct noise level tests from outside the facility at a distance of 50 feet, 100 feet, or so on, in your existing facilities to be able to give some assurance to residents that there won't be an adverse impact?
We've never been asked this before, so no, we've not been asked to do that. Again, I know it's a very well-built building that seems to have very solid walls. It seems to be brick on that entire rear end of that building, which I know does absorb a lot of sound. I think the loudest things we would have in there would be bowling, pins getting knocked over and machines like that.
Or screaming children.
Yeah, screaming children would be loud. But I'm sure Yankee Candle probably had some excited screaming children. They had a pretty awesome setup in there, which we enjoyed. But yeah, no, we've never been asked that.
Okay.
I'll ask sort of a follow-up. I know we have a noise ordinance in our community, and it deals with decibels, a certain distance from a building and such. I would imagine that the noise ordinance would still come into play with this.
It would apply to this property as well.
Okay.
As all the other properties in the city of Williamsburg.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
Other questions? You look like you were, just discussion.
Well, I'll say, from a discussion perspective, I think it's a great idea to have some more family entertainment in our community. I think we're a family-friendly destination, and having activities for families to do is an important part of that. Not just, I shouldn't say just Colonial Williamsburg, because Colonial Williamsburg is great and Busch Gardens is great, but having activities so that they can do different things each night of the week is something that families look for. And with young people being able to pull up on their computers and phones, oh, Williamsburg, what is there to do there? I think that this is a big plus, that they'll be able to say, oh, they got this cool place, I want to go there. And that it should help with our tourism struggle. And with noise ordinances and things like that, I think we'll be able to have a good project there.
Going off that, I think, yeah, just wanted to resound everything that Greg said. I think the closest thing we kind of had, and growing up in Williamsburg too, I think the Whisk had developed like some sort of laser tag options and everything as well. And that kind of became a pretty big like family destination. I don't know, a lot of birthday parties went there and everything. It's just very far out of the way. And having something a little bit more downtown, this kind of option, I think could bring a lot of depth to the community. You know, something more than, right, Busch Gardens or Colonial Williamsburg, CW. We always bring our grandparents there and stuff when they visit, but having cousins come into town too, having this right here, that'd be excellent. And also as a college student, I mean, we get fielded questions all the time, like, well, what do you guys do in Williamsburg? What is there to do? And this just adds another thing. And in a way, I feel like it also kind of fills the whole. Yankee Candle was great for families, right, in a little bit of a different capacity. A lot of families went there to spend a lot of time with kids, could kind of do some holiday shopping. I know they loved the Santa that was there. I don't know if maybe Santa pictures can be incorporated here around Christmas time as well. But I think in a way this kind of helps fill that gap that's definitely been felt in that area. Thank you.
And certainly to have a 65,000 square foot building that's been vacant for, how long has it been vacant? Yeah, and it will continue to deteriorate, and being able to put it back on the rolls as a revenue producing business in our community is worthwhile. As long as the noise ordinance still applies and we can manage things properly. Traffic is my concern.
Mr. Hampton?
I've got nothing to add.
Gail?
I agree with Mr. Granger. I think it's a good asset, could be a good asset to the community. And I know from personal experience, I used to take my young children to see Santa at Yankee Candle, and that was one of the loudest experiences I've been involved in. So I don't see noise being a factor, especially they're required to meet the city noise ordinance. And also, staff recommends it and meets their 6 criteria, so it seems like a no-brainer to me, and I intend to support it.
Okay, thank you. I saw your hand up again, sir. Did you want to address us one more time? I'll go ahead and reopen since you came all the way and it's your first time.
So, thank you, I appreciate it. That is a kind of lopsided conversation, right? We've had several birthdays at the Whisk, out of the way, like 10 minutes, that's out of the way. So that doesn't seem to be like a whole reason for saying, oh yeah, so we got to plant one in the middle of Williamsburg. And so the noise ordinance in theory should work, right? But what if it doesn't, right? So what's plan B when it turns out it's above 50 decibels at, I don't know, 11 p.m. on Friday night, whatever the noise ordinance is. When it passes that, then what? So it just seems, I understand y'all's reasoning, but we've gone to the Whisk, there's go-karts another 5 or 10 minutes up the road. I don't see that length of a drive being the thing that's going to be like, oh yeah, no, my family decided we're not going to Williamsburg because, man, it was 10 minutes to the Whisk. I mean, instead of 3 minutes to Uptown Alley or whatever, right? I don't see how that's the deciding factor. I understand there are more considerations at play, but it would be awesome for those of us in that little cul-de-sac where we're like less than 50 feet from that retaining wall. It would be nice if the discussion were a little more profound and thoughtful than that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've had input from all the commissioners. I agree that this would be a valid change to the B2 allowance, allowing a family entertainment center as a use. That's the first of the two applications, and the second one, this particular one, to allow Uptown Alley, a special use permit, to operate the family entertainment center at this location. I think I'm not going to add anything else to what's already been said because I agree with you. The noise ordinance is a factor, and I'm as sensitive to anyone, and there are processes for enforcing that noise ordinance in the city, and those have to be followed. So do I hear a motion with regard to PCR 22-017 and 22-018?
I'll move that we approve PCR number 22-017 and PCR number 22-018 as written.
Second.
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you. Our next item on the agenda, site plans and subdivisions. We have PCR 22-013, Quarterpath, Williamsburg. Ms. Griffin.
Yes, I will just give a brief statement about this particular subdivision, and then the applicant is going to come forth, and we have asked him to provide an overview of the Quarterpath subdivision. This was subdivided back in 2007, and the site plan was done back at that time, and we know that a lot of the members currently here on the Planning Commission may not have been on the board and were not on the board when that time happened. So I'll just go through this. The land for the Quarterpath at Williamsburg Development proposed by Riverside Healthcare Association was rezoned to ED, Economic Development District Conditional, and RS2, Single Family Dwelling District Conditional, in April of 2005. A site plan was approved in October of 2007 for the construction of the initial section of Battery Boulevard to Commonwealth Avenue and for the roads to serve a proposed nursing home. In 2013, the development plan for the North Village Green area located north of Battery Boulevard and behind what was called Aurora Apartments. I think it's now Addison or Addition Apartments? Attain Apartments was completed and approved in 2013. And so now this is a request to subdivide an 85-acre parcel into seven different lots so that these lots can be sold for medical spaces and also for residential homes. Multifamily homes. And so the applicant will present today the subdivision so that you can have a better understanding of where everything will go, what site plans we currently have in our office, and then the vacant property that's coming and the plans for that property. And so I'll ask the applicant to come up and give their presentation.
Okay, while they're doing that, just want to make sure everybody's clear and that I'm clear that all this before us today is the approval of the subdivision, that all, of just the details of the subdivision, because the entire project has, way before any of us were on the commission, was approved by the city, as you say, in 2007. That's right.
That's correct.
So there's going to be some additional information, but all we're looking at is the subdivision itself.
Yes, and I failed to say that this did go through the subdivision subcommittee of the Planning Commission in September, and they have looked at this, and this presentation was actually requested on behalf of the subdivision committee so that all of the planning commissioners could have a better understanding of the request.
Right, I think Mr. Granger made that make that request. Is that right? Yeah, that's smart, because Quarterpath comes up fairly frequently, and not all of us know enough about it, so welcome, thank you. Please state your names for the clerk to get in the records and the.
Thank you very much. I'm Tracy Dowling, and I'm here representing Williamsburg Quarterpath LLC, which is wholly owned by Riverside Health System.
Hello, I'm Jason Vickersmith. I'm a real estate developer with WVS Companies, and I'm a consultant for Riverside Health Systems on this particular project.
And yes, as Ms. Griffin, backwards one. As she mentioned, and we thought this was also a very good idea to be able to come before the commission to provide you kind of an overview of where Quarterpath has been, where it's come from, and where we're headed, to give you some background as far as the subdivision plat that's in front of you today. Again, Quarterpath is a very large development. It's complex, mixed use. I think you all know where it's located. And again, this presentation is intended to give you a brief overview of where we are. Riverside Health System began searching for a site for our new hospital way back in the early 2000s, and we acquired this more than 380-acre parcel or tract of parcels. Of course, 380 acres is much larger than what we need, even for future healthcare campuses. And in 2012, we also acquired Tutter's Neck Pond, which is very important, and Jason will give an overview of what that pond provides for us. Again, the southern portion, which is kind of outlined in brown here, the lower portion of the Quarterpath project, is the portion that is zoned economic development, and the northern portion, which is yellow on your slide here, from Quarterpath Road down to Route 199, the yellow portion there is zoned RS2, residential. When the property was rezoned, we did agree to a number of proffers. We did dedicate approximately 21 acres of the development to a municipal park, Readout Park, which, if you haven't visited it, it is a very lovely place to be, and we consider it a very important amenity to the project. We also proffered to participate in the construction of a water tower for the city water system. That was approximately $1.6 million. We proffered to a 50% reduction in the residential development or the residential density in the ED district of the project. We proffered to participate in the construction of the Route 199 and Quarterpath Road intersection. We participated with the developer SL Nussbaum of the shopping center there. We worked to develop a community development authority. We worked with the city on that for the project to help us in some of the infrastructure development. We proffered to construct Battery Boulevard, which was completed early on in the project and has served to support the development that we've done thus far, and the development of Readout Road, which will be constructed when residential development takes place in the residential portion of the project on the northern side. And we also proffered to restrict some of the residential development south of Battery Boulevard inside Commonwealth Avenue.
So once the zoning was done, we developed a preliminary plat plan and took that through approval at the Planning Commission and the City Council at that time to kind of set up some of the overarching, call it master plan elements of the project, but master plan primarily from a infrastructure engineering standpoint. A couple of key factors on the approved preliminary plat plan is we did an environmental overlay where we looked at all of the wetlands, RPA buffers, and landscape buffers for the project. We looked at steep slope impacts. We looked at creating land bay designations for the property so that it's a large property so we could kind of identify areas and refer to them. We worked with the city staff to develop street design standards for the project. We came up with a kind of a spine infrastructure plan, water lines, storm sewers, sanitary sewers, force mains, pump stations, water tower, major roads. We looked at the pre- and post-development watershed, and subsequently to the original preliminary plat plan, amended it to include a stormwater master plan for the entire project. We looked at a phasing plan for infrastructure because we had to build the roads in phases. And we also looked at site calculations for open space and where the developable areas would be. So some of these sheets here are directly from the approved preliminary plat plan. So this is sheet 4, which is the environmental overlay. Gives you a sense of where the buffers, RPA, and wetlands are. So if you take the 380 or so acres that were in the city of Williamsburg, 21 acres went to the park. That left 360 acres. And you can see about 50% of that is set aside in open space, and about half of it is set aside for infrastructure and development. When you look at the spine infrastructure here, Battery Boulevard is the main road through the project in the ED district, and along that is our main utilities. We have sanitary sewer. We built a sanitary pump station to serve the whole project as a force main out to major line and Route 199. We built a big water main that connects to down Battery Boulevard from the water tower and back to Quarterpath Road. And we built a storm sewer system that collects water from our project and also picks up some of the drainage from Route 60 that previously didn't have either water quality or quantity treatment. Battery Boulevard, like I said, is the main road. We put 2 traffic circles kind of in the main part of the ED district to kind of create a sense of arrival when you come off Route 60, which is kind of a suburban character to it. We wanted you to come to a circle and feel like you've arrived in a place and come into our project in the ED district is really a kind of a new urbanism design where garages are in alleyways, buildings front the streets, there's sidewalks everywhere. So more along the lines of traditional development and less of a suburban character. And so that traffic signal kind of a circle, allowed us to transition from the suburban element design of Route 60 to a more urban design. We did a very large traffic study at the time. I know that was one of the questions at the site plan review meeting. And the traffic study that we did was on a much more dense project than as it turns out we're going to build. It had 1,377 residential dwelling units, which would be kind of the maximum we could ever get under our zoning. Had 400,000 square feet of retail, which is brick and mortar retail has changed a lot since 2007 to now, and the Marquee project has not been overly successful, so that's probably an unlikely to happen at this point. 200,000 square feet of office, 200,000 square feet of medical office, 150-bed hospital, 397 senior living units, and 120-bed assisted living. So from a traffic standpoint, we are well below what was envisioned during that study, particularly since, as you know, retail is the most heavily trafficked use, and so that being cut dramatically back is going to dramatically reduce the amount of traffic from the project. We did a big stormwater master plan. If you look at kind of the red outline with the arrows on it, that's the watershed of Tutter's Neck Pond. And what we did, working with the city staff, because the city owns the dam of Tutter's Neck Pond, it's on Quarterpath Road, is we built a new dam upstream of Tutter's Neck Pond on what's Redoubt Road. I don't know if I have a pointer here, but you can see the 2 colored water retention areas. The purple one is Tutter's Neck, and then the light blue one. So we created additional impounding area for stormwater, and by doing that, we take the pressure off the dam, and we provide water quality treatment for our project and for a lot of the runoff that you can see that's there on Route 60, back up there like A, D1, F letters that come onto our property from offsite and, our older developments that didn't have water quality or quantity treatment. So we've come up with a solution for the whole region. We also, when we started the project, we kind of set up two things internal that are not governmental processes, but are internal processes that we use to ensure quality in our project. We have a homeowners association that's quite complex and layered because we have a mixed-use community. And not only do we have a mixed-use community, but we have lots of different kinds of uses within the mixed uses. It's not every, we don't have 500 single-family houses that are all very similar. So we have renters, we have homeowners, we have a medical campus, we'll have commercial users. And then we also created design guidelines that we apply. So any project that goes forward within Quarterpath has to go through an architectural review process and follow the guidelines that we established. Here's a parcel map, which I know is something that was and this is obviously a diagrammatic one, but it's very useful to see. We've got these labels, 4, 6, 7. Those are right off the preliminary plat plan. And so this is what we use to market the project and to show people so they can get a sense of what's for sale, what's available. And really this whole plat process we're going through is taking some of these blobs that are on here and creating parcels for those areas so that then we can subsequently have a site plan for that area and come back and further subdivide to smaller lots and add internal roads to those areas. The medical campus is, I think, been a very nice addition to the community. The hospital is very nice, and they continue to add and upgrade it. And right now, there's a medical office building under construction as well that will further add to the medical infrastructure in this eastern part of Williamsburg. From a residential standpoint, because we have such a large project and so many units, we have tried to have many different types of residential opportunities for people, and this is also kind of part of good traditional neighborhood design. And so we've done 508 units already that are either completed or are under construction. And out of that, we've got multifamily rental. We have multifamily rental that's age targeted for older folks that has a lot of additional services within the it's not assisted living, but you have additional services that you get renting there. We have multifamily units for sale, or condos, and we have fee simple or for sale units. We have two basic kinds of townhomes. One that's more of a younger, getting on the property ladder, three-story townhouse, and then we have a wider two-story one that's really a move-down kind of unit. So if you have a single-family home and you want less maintenance and easier lifestyle, it's a good option. We have a number of projects that we're going to be submitting and are going to go through the Planning Commission that's going to add to this list of what's completed or under construction. So just kind of taking a look at this map and looking at where we are and where we're going. The red areas are what's complete, the hospital and the Village Green North that was mentioned, and Attain, the apartment project. Additionally, the medical office building across from the hospital is under construction, and Resort Lifestyle Communities is building the age-targeted rental housing. We have 3 plans that we're going to be submitting to come through the city in the upcoming number of months. We have an additional for sale housing component called Greenwood, which is just to the north of Village Green. We have an additional for sale housing that a group from Virginia Beach named Kerbor is going to be bringing through. We're going to be selling them the land. And then we have an additional medical office building that's Peninsula Dermatologist. They're going to be bringing a site plan through in the coming months, looking for approval on that. So the particular subdivision that we're doing goes and basically, like I said, is creating a number of parcels. And so there are 2 things that we've built that are not on their own parcels right now. One is the medical office building, which is parcel B9, and the other is the clubhouse and pool for the community, which is parcel B11. We have 3 parcels that we're creating that correspond to the plans that we were talking about bringing in the coming months. Parcel B7 is the Corbor residential for sale project. Parcel B12 is the Greenwood for sale project. And then parcel B8 is the Peninsula Dermatologist project. So once again, those are going to be a site plan that's going to go through review by the staff, and then it's going to eventually, hopefully, make it to the Planning Commission with an individual site plan for approval for those. This creates the parcel that then lets those site plans be reviewed and considered. And then there's 2 additional parcels that are kind of the remainder land in these areas for future development, and that's parcel B6 and B10 on this map. So we could have talked about a lot of other things, but we didn't want to bore you too badly. So please ask questions. We've been working on this. I've been working on this project for a decade, and Riverside's been working on this for, getting close to 20 years, and it's still probably got decades to go before it's all finished. So it's something that's going to be around for a long time.
I guess I would say this is the slide that I think that the site plan subcommittee really, how did we get to this point of the plans that are in front of us, and how do they all come together? And this one kind of gives you that broader overview that you all wanted to see, is how these all came together.
Yeah, that big picture is very helpful. Thank you so much for that presentation. And it's good to know we've got some more business coming. Thank you. I should ask if anyone has questions for Marcy.
I just appreciate the fact that Greg asked for the comprehensive presentation to the whole body, because the effort you put into putting this together now makes the SPR meeting that we had make a lot more sense to me.
I completely agree. I think it was time well spent on y'all's behalf, and our understanding is much greater now. So I really appreciate it, and I think it'll help you in the days and months and years to come. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Hey, Ms. Griffin, where are we? You have a presentation for the 22-013, or that was it?
I felt like what they provided was just exactly what the Site Plan Review Committee wanted. And so with that, staff is recommending approval of the subdivision plat that has been presented to you, and asking the Planning Commission to vote on the subdivision.
Okay, great, thank you. I will open the comments for public comment if there is anyone, and I don't see anyone, so I'm going to go ahead and close it. Discussion?
It's very straightforward.
I think so too. Motion to approve PCR 22-013 as submitted.
So moved.
Second?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you all. I realized during that I had skipped our very first open forum, which is the opportunity for anyone to come forward and address us on matters that are not on today's agenda. So I'm going to give that opportunity for anyone to do that. And while I guess I'm emptying the room by doing that, so I will close the open. Thanks again. I will close that open forum, but I wanted to make sure we do have that opportunity since it is on the agenda, just a little bit out of order. We don't have any other new business. We have just a couple maybe of commissioner reports. Ms. Liebel, is there an update on the design review guidelines? Some good news for us, maybe?
Well, we are moving in the direction of our public hearings for the ARB, and then on to Planning Commission and on to City Council. There's a subcommittee of 2 of us, Mr. Gross and I, are working together to come up with the next steps for the public meeting to decide or recommend a plan of presentation to keep it simple and to the point and focused for the community. And we have some action items for Ms. Griffin, so we will be continuing to work on that. But I think our target, Mr. Gross and I talked about a target of trying to complete that by the end of the first week in November. So we're on a pretty fast track. And then we'll be moving into the announcement of the public meeting to talk about the guidelines and moving to try to finish it before February of 2023, which is 3 years after we started.
Well, yeah, we won't talk about that. And so by the time it gets to us, it will have had public forums, and it will have been
Yes.
talked and
Yes.
hashed about. So hopefully when it gets to us, it will not require anything from us but a presentation and a
Right.
vote most of the time.
Correct.
Okay, that's
But,
very good.
but correct me if I'm wrong, we still are required to have a public hearing in front of the planning commission, correct?
That's correct. It'll be a planning commission public hearing as well as a city council public hearing.
But hopefully we will have fleshed out all of and the presentation will be focused enough to not go into the weeds or down a rabbit hole about my wood windows versus your vinyl windows.
Right, yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you. Mr. Sokolowski, we have a mural?
Yeah, we have a mural being painted as we speak in Midtown Row. It's really coming along nicely. It looks great.
Okay, good. Mr. Granger, anything from Arts, any updates from the tourism?
No.
Have you had a meeting?
No.
Oh, well, it's even better. Gosh, how did I get away with that? Was there anything else at site plan today? What was site plan today, Mr. Hamilton?
What was site plan today?
Obviously very memorable. Well, if anything, so it'll be something that'll be coming
It
before
was
us.
a minor adjustment in parking for a parking lot next to Merchant Square. They're getting ready to, where they've been excavating the First Baptist Church, and they're getting ready to move the school.
The Bray School. So did you recommend the plan that would take away the 2 parking spaces?
We did.
And is that going to require a new special use permit or an amendment to the existing?
An amendment to the existing.
Amendment to the
permit.
existing special use permit? Okay, very good.
I believe they noted that they managed to get 6 other spaces
Yep.
in nearby areas.
Yep, exactly. They're very, very creative with parking.
Yes.
Which is important around here. The other item that I just want to call your attention to is the 2023 Planning Commission schedule, just for your calendaring information for next year. Nobody is dropping off from term limits, right? So I think everybody will all be together next year, which is super. We have a public hearing scheduled for November 16th, which I think you all want to pay attention to. We've had a lot of calls and emails about that. Some of you have probably gotten some of those. Anything else for today? Okay, then we are adjourned. Thank you all.